Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Just Enough to Suffer. This is episode 3 of the show. We are officially rolling. We are at the end of the summer. We are at the end of training camp. Cut downs have happened. We're going to get into all of that. My name is Lou. I'm joined by my friend Greg here. Greg, tell the people what's going on in your life, and then we'll get into it.
Football's back. Week 0 was Saturday. I had to help a friend move, so I didn't get to watch any of it, which I think just made me more excited for this next week that's coming up with all the big games. The weather not cooperating with football season, so that sucks a lot. It's tough to get like super excited for college football when it's 100 degrees and I sweat whenever I move outside. Like that's to me is just not football weather.
Yeah, I went to the Jets game on Sunday, and we sat outside for like the first quarter and a half, and I thought I was gonna pass out, so we had to go inside. It was too hot.
Yeah, like when week 1, I always get super excited for, obviously, and then you get there and you're like, "Fuck, I gotta sit in like 3 hours worth of beating sun," because there's never a cloud in the sky for the home opener.
Never.
It's always just straight heat and just bearing down on you for 4 hours.
It's crazy. It's so hot. Every opening day, it's so hot.
It's ridiculous. But no, I mean, other than that, just kind of getting in the football groove. I'm drinking a lot more water.
Okay, good for you.
I'm reading more.
Okay. I saw you were reading that book, Boom, right?
Yeah. A lot of words on the pages.
I read that. I listened to that last year, an audiobook. It was very, very good.
It's a very like humbling experience when you read a book and like the page to word ratio is like perfect. And you get to a book like that and it's not as big pages and there's a lot of words on there.
Yeah, it's really humbling growing up and realizing like, oh, I kind of forgot how to read. Like like on some real shit. Like you just forget how to like read 325 pages of a book. That's why I've just switched to audiobooks. I'm still getting all the information and that's all I care about.
I can listen to podcasts all day long. Audiobooks I can't do. But then the key is
you got to find a good the narrator has to be good.
Will you narrate books for me?
Absolutely. I have a great voice.
I know you do. Can we do that?
A face for radio and a voice for television. What?
Pardon?
Sorry.
But no, I mean, we're like, this is the last like month or so just sucks of summer of August because all like once you hit August, all you're looking forward to is football. It's all I care about. All I want to do is watch football. And we have to go through training camp and we got to go through preseason, which like a minute into the first preseason game, you realize, shit, we still have like a month left till football.
Yeah, you got your 3 plays of your starters, or even in the Jets case, like most recently, you get like a quarter and a half of starters, and then it's like, oh, you're fighting. And like I love Chris Streveler and I love Calvin Jackson, but it's like it's hard to get that excited about that moment.
Yeah, you're like, excited.
These guys are probably.
You're excited for the moment, and then the moment goes, and you're just all right. That was cool.
Yeah.
What's with the energy right now?
My energy?
I feel like you're lacking a little bit of energy. You're hopped up on fruit snacks.
I had a couple of fruit snacks. I mean, it's been a long day. It's 7:30 p.m. Like I've worked all day. Some of us have jobs. I don't know. Just like golf every day.
I'm actually going to golf tomorrow.
Of course you are, because that's what you do all day. All right. So
what about you? What's new with you? What's on your mind?
Honestly, we recorded Card Talk today, and it was really funny because we had a running joke on our show. If for some reason there's someone who doesn't listen to Card Talk who hears this show, we've had a joke about Ryan, our co-host, who kind of got caught up in the moment of an argument, which we're really good at getting Ryan caught up in the heat of an argument. And we kind of got him to say that he thought Kellen Mond was not better than Kirk Cousins, but like he was like, hey, maybe we should give Kellen Mond a shot because Kirk Cousins is kind of mid, which I can understand that take because like the narrative of Kirk Cousins is like, he's just okay. He's kind of bad. Why would you want him?
Yep.
In reality, he's like top 12 quarterbacks in the NFL, top 15 quarterbacks in the NFL. Like that's really hard to replace. And then Kellen Mond got cut, and it was funny for a couple of reasons because number one, in the card world, the last few weeks has been like Kellen Mond pump season, and pump season means when a card value gets pumped up artificially. Some would say it happens either way, but I would argue specifically in this case there was a lot of pumping of Kellen Mond in a artificial way because there was really no pathway to him getting playing time anytime in the immediate future. based on his play, Kirk Cousins' play,
Mhm.
this new coaching staff. Like everything is built towards Kirk Cousins having a great year. So it's never going to happen. Anyway, it just made me think about the NFL and like how the NFL is viewed and kind of digested by fans. Because like if you're not in the mix every single day, which you can only be with for your own team, most people aren't even in the mix for their own team. A lot of people would just kind of take the news as it is and they just assume that that's correct.
Mhm.
Kind of like when people talk about how the Jets offensive line is falling apart because they lost Mekhi Becton. If you don't know any better, you would say, oh, they lost their 2020 first round pick. Yeah, they're in trouble. They're really not. It has no impact on anything.
Right.
So I just thought about that and just how the NFL is and sports are really like digested and kind of made me rethink how I'm thinking about different teams where the Jets are going to play this year, kind of cards I want to buy, how people talk about that. Fantasy football is also a piece of that puzzle. So I've been thinking a lot about that and I kind of just something I'm keeping an eye on.
It's truly wild because, like, for us, I think football, for us especially, like, we kind of know outside of the Jets, we're kind of in the mix on everything that's going on in the NFL.
We're
right?
aware, but we're also at the mercy of media reports, and media reports are not always or mostly not accurate.
Right. But my point is like with hockey, like, I like the Rangers. I couldn't tell you what's going on in any other team in any other part of the country for hockey. And then, like, with basketball, like, I think I have a really good understanding of what's going on with other stuff. Baseball, couldn't tell you. Like, it's just weird how you're so locked into one or two sports, and the rest, I just have absolutely no clue what's going on in the league.
Yeah, but yeah, it's like for baseball. Like I'm aware of the Astros the most, obviously, and then I'm aware of my mortal enemies. I know everything about the Yankees. I know everything about the Dodgers, and then I'm aware of like the Mets just because they're around. And our guy Jay is a fan, so I like to needle him a little bit, so I stay in the mix. But yeah, it's exactly that way. Cool. So Jets Giants. I think we saw the starters for a quarter and a half. I was pleased, kind of. It was strange, dude. Like I was watching the game with Sean. We went to the game. We were watching it, and I was watching Carter and Brees run. Tell me if you saw this differently than me. Maybe I need to go back and watch the game, and this is where you help me a lot. And when we get into our breakdowns, we'll start doing that. Is Carter like doing too much of this on Sunday? There was a lot of side to side, I felt like, and same thing with Brees had that one good run, but there was still a lot of like dancing. It felt like.
I mean, not as much. Carter's just that kind of dude where.
Maybe I just don't remember him doing that as much last year. I feel like he was doing so much dancing. It was very weird.
Yeah, he's more of a guy who, at least from my perspective, is like I said in the group chat, he's just a guy who's always moving forward. And there's a difference between guys who dance around in the backfield and they get 1-2 yards. And there's guys like Carter who I think has really good vision. And when he does that type of stuff, he's kind of setting it up. He kind of sees where his blockers are going, and then he does those type of moves to get, an advantageous angle to get more yards. And we saw in the fumble, which was unfortunate, but that's the kind of player he is. It's just like he's always moving forward. He's always falling forward, which in running backs, especially young running backs, that's what I think keeps them on the field, right? Like one thing that Connor and I talk about, one thing that he's taught me is that you don't necessarily want the guy that's like the home run hitter. Obviously, you want a guy that can do that, but you also want a guy who can turn a negative 2-yard play into a 2-yard gain, right? It doesn't always have to be the 8, 9, 10-yard chunk plays. You just want guys that are consistently not putting your offense behind the 8 ball. I think that's what Carter and Brees do. I will say it's been a weird – I don't think it's been happening as much, but I think we will start to see it as the season goes on. Brees was like Offensive Rookie of the Year #1 candidate before preseason, and I think he's kind of cooled off, which is fine. Yeah, which is fine. Like he's a rookie running back, but I think the most interesting thing I want to see on this offense is how the carries are split with those two, because I love Carter. I think Brees is the better back, but judging off of what we've seen, I mean, there's really no clear cut #1, which is also fine too. Like that's like the #1 running back thing is just kind of gone. Like I think we talked about it a couple episodes ago. There's really not guys where it's a RB1 and that's it. And that's what San Francisco likes to do too, right? Like they can throw anybody in there and they can gain yards. And that's kind of what the offense is built for. So that'd be interesting. Sunday, Flacco was what Flacco was, right? Like we can only hear about good camp reports for so long until the guy actually has to go out and play against a team in a different jersey in a game setting. I mean, we saw what he can do he can command the offense pretty well, right? Like you saw some of the short stuff. You saw some pretty big misses. Conklin up the seam. They had Azama. And that's kind of where the limitation of Joe Flacco is. I mean, the interception was terrible.
I think he wanted to get off the field. That's my take, because I was watching him. As soon as he threw it, he made an attempt to like make a tackle, and then he just walked off and popped his helmet off and sat down. I think he knew it was less serious. He just didn't care.
Yeah, it's just, it's which may be fine, but also you don't want to see him bail on the pocket like that.
There was a lot of bailing. That was very interesting. I couldn't totally figure that out. I feel like we haven't gotten an answer on that. Did they talk about that post game?
I don't think so, because but like with the Ravens, that's going to be an issue if he's going to want to do that. Like if the offensive line is going to give him time, he's got to realize that you just got to essentially take what they give him.
Do you think that's been getting coached to the quarterbacks? Because like, haven't they said to Zach like they kind of want him to have room to create a little bit and take what you can get, but like a little bit room to create? So I wonder if that's like become part of the messaging to the quarterbacks. Because Streveler hasn't exactly like stood in there. Like he's moving around a little bit.
There's not the exact opposite of Flack. That guy will never stay in the pocket for a second.
But that's what I'm saying. Like maybe they're just teaching them to move around a little bit.
If that's the case, we have a serious issue, because it's one thing to have that in the offense, and then why are you having like who Joe Flacco is? He's in the league for long enough. Maybe dial up some plays. He doesn't need to roll out. Like he's not the most agile, like quick guy. You're not dealing with a Zach, right? Like so, I don't like that.
Maybe I think you can't build your offense around your backup quarterback, right? So like. Again, this is total speculation, but it kind of makes sense that Zach was moving around a lot. Joe's obviously was moving around a lot. We've seen Mike White move around, and we saw Stroud moving around. So it's possible they're just kind of teaching them, and they should probably tone that down a little bit for Joe, and I'm sure they'll figure all that out. It's still the preseason. I'm not that worried about it until I see it. If I see it next week, then yeah, I'll be worried. But other than that, it's like
the panic meter ticked up a bit. Not a lot.
I'm at like
not enough, but
a rock solid 2.
The ears perked up a little bit watching Flacco.
I mean, my expectations are low to begin with, so it's like what you said before about Carter like staying in front of the 8 ball and all that stuff. That's what I think this offense is built for, is like just staying in front of the 8 ball, limiting mistakes, keeping it simple, a lot of short stuff. Like I'm fine.
Yeah, I mean, it's just I just don't want to get caught, because we see this every time, every Jets season, where you're down 10-0, right? First quarter. Then what?
I got news for you.
You need a chunk play, right? I get it. Like taking the underneath stuff and taking some of the short, easy passes is fine, but you also are gonna have to beat a team like the Ravens with a couple shot plays.
They were popping the top a little bit. They ran a couple, from what I remember.
Missed Conklin wide open up the seam.
But they're taking the shots though. It's not like they're not there.
But I still need to see him complete them. It's great if you're there, but I need to see the passes fall into the receiver's hands.
We're definitely not going to do the same thing we did last week, but your energy towards Flacco is interesting.
It's interesting because all I heard for 3 weeks was this guy's, the next best thing, and then I see him in a game, and it's just like, look,
I'll take a 6 over a 4 all day long.
Listen, I thought the offense was moving fine. That's something I just need to see. When Conklin's running up the seam free, I need to see him able to hit him on that.
Totally. And I think accuracy has been a point of conversation throughout Joe Flacco's career, so I wouldn't expect that to change. But I definitely felt like the offense, it was weird, dude. Like, we didn't lose in the preseason.
No. Sal was undefeated.
I thought we were 0 for 3. So I need to just reset my brain a little bit, because even when I was watching that first drive, which was a great drive, they were cooking. Mm-hmm. But the whole time I was like, man, I feel like we're not moving the ball.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden we're inside the 30 and then we fumbled, or inside the 40, whatever. And then we fumbled.
Right.
But it was good to see the starters. The defense looks awesome. They are flying around, flying and hitting.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how much of that is a function. I don't know how all this works. Like, I don't know how to judge it, because the Giants weren't playing their starters, right? So it's definitely backups, but I don't know, man. Like, that speed was really interesting to see and like really exciting. Quan is like a missile. You know what I mean? Like, mm-hmm. I like the feel of the defense is really, really interesting.
We saw what happens when you have a healthy Carl Lawson.
Mm-hmm.
And granted, it's against backup offensive linemen, but you still got to make the plays when they're there. And the first play, Carl Lawson walk that left tackle back like it was nothing. 4 or 5 yards. And then the next play, absolutely destroys him with a chop rip, gets to the quarterback, everyone converges on the quarterback, and they get a sack. So that's kind of the key to all this because, you know, the safety, whether the safeties is an issue, but corners are young, right? Like Sauce Gardner, rookie. DJ Reed, maybe, I don't know. Like the hamstring thing is, as we get closer to the season, it's kind of one of those things that like, is this thing going to be one of those where like he's just week to week and we're just going to have to deal with it every week? But if
hamstrings stick around, I think it's like just let it.
You got to heal. You got to heal. You can't rush it back because then you.
I honestly would prefer he didn't play week 1 if it's like kind of a hit or miss thing. Just let him sit.
Right. But that's kind of the Saleh's philosophy of building this defense, and we've seen it, right? Like you want to build from front to back. You don't want to, you know, and a lot of teams, it's the big debate of would you rather have, you know, pass rush or coverage? Well, you kind of got to play both sides when you're a team like the Jets right now. And I think we see it with their defensive line depth. They have a pretty good set of edge rushers with Lawson, Franklin Myers. We saw Bryce Huff with some pop. He's the guy who in a rotation could, you know, get a couple sacks this year. Quinnen we need to have a big year from Quinnen. I think that's kind of you know, not as much talked about point that Quinnen needs to kind of show up this year.
Contract year, baby. He'll figure it out.
Yeah. So I'm really looking forward to him because I think it just feels like he's pressed for a breakout year. But then again, we say that for like everybody for their entire Jets career. But yeah, I mean, the Quan hit was great. It'll be interesting to see him.
Quan hit was sick.
It'll be interesting. It'll be really fun to see him and Mosley together. But yeah, like it was a really encouraging third game. I'll say that.
The thing I was most excited about, and I'm a body language guy. I like to track how the sidelines look.
Big body language guy.
And I like to watch them. The moment they're coming off the field, I watch everybody. The moment they come off the field to the moment they sit down, what are they doing? The way these guys carry themselves is very interesting. Sauce had a stop. I think he got thrown at once. No, he made a tackle, I think it was. And then someone threw in his direction and it was incomplete. They came off and he was talking the entire time. He got the stop. They like whoever it was, they dapped up and he took his helmet off and was yapping the entire way back to the bench. And I loved it. Brax's touchdown, that screen touchdown. Eli Moore, first guy off the bench. Michael Carter, second guy off the bench. Robert Saleh, next guy there. Like it's just a lot of good stuff that I was excited to see. And I think even in a world where this team is probably a 6 to 8 win team, there's going to be a lot of good moments, I think. And I think a lot to look forward to. And something we'll talk about next week is realistically, like, what are we looking at here record wise? And what do we think the team's going to be able to do? And a little bit of a come to Jesus moment for some fans, I think, hopefully, when they realize what this team actually is, because there's some real holes to discuss, and we'll get there. But I think a lot of things to feel really good about.
Yeah, like that's something that we've kind of talked about, and I think we saw it up close at camp. It's just like this team just loves being around each other. There's a lot of good dudes, a lot of fun dudes, guys who just genuinely want to have fun and play football. And I don't think that's something that we've had as a collective team in a while. It's been like pockets. But like you said, I mean, you saw it. Everyone's just excited for everybody when good plays happen. And it starts from the coach, and it goes all the way down to every single player. And that's something that's really, really fun to watch. But I agree with you. I think this is a 6 to 8 win team, but I'm okay with being a 6 to 8 win team if, like you said, there's a lot of fun moments and this team is just generally having fun. Because most seasons it's 6 to 8. You know, we have like maybe 1 or 2 fun players on the team that end up getting hurt or nicked for a couple weeks, and then it's just boring. And it seems like this team, they have a good amount of depth. I mean, we've seen it with cuts, right? Like, there's players where you're kind of just like, shit, man, like they cut him, but it's really not a drop off between who's on the team and who they cut, right? So that's encouraging. But yeah, I do think there's been so many good vibes from free agency up to the draft, up to the summer. Well, now we actually have to start playing football games, right? There's no more hypotheticals. There's no more any of that. We need to play football games, and we need to see where this team stands up against the rest of the league. Like, remember when we were all excited the schedule comes out and it's like, oh, they're playing the Ravens first, and people were like, the NFL shafted us again. It's like, why are we at people want this team to be good until they actually have to play games, and then it's, well, they can't beat these teams. Figure it out.
Yeah, I think it's very make or break, right? It's like this coaching staff has some things to prove. Quarterback has some things to prove. Defense definitely has some things to prove. So, rubber's going to meet the road. We'll see where we are. I think we're very positive about this group, and we're going to get into the final 53 right now. We're feeling good about the group, but it's a results-oriented business, right? So the Ravens are absolutely beatable. 100% they're absolutely beatable.
Right.
Like, let's not pretend these are not the Jets of old, that's not to say this is a great team, because it's not, but this is we're not a walkover. I don't think we're a walkover anymore. Right. No. I think we have playmakers who can get us back in a game really fast on both sides of the ball. I think the turnover luck will change for us. I think we're like just due for like touchdowns. Like, we're just due for offensive production. Like, it's gonna come. So I feel good heading into the whole thing. I think next week we'll have a nice preview. We're gonna have a Ravens fan on. We're gonna get into that later, but I'm excited about next week. Now, let's start with the updated 53, courtesy of friend of the show, Rich Sweeney.
Dear friend of the show.
Friend of the show, Rich Samini. And here we go. All right. So on offense, I think no huge surprises here, right? Like, I think I was excited to see, not excited, that's not fair. I was hoping we would get to see Zonovan Knight kept, and I thought the only pathway to that was if Coleman was cut. And obviously he was let go today. So that's the big surprise on offense. I think the Mims thing, we should probably talk about that a little bit. I don't know what the situation is there. I can't really tell. It seems to me that Denzel's issue and his agent's issue is with the coaching staff more than it is with anything. And I feel like he hasn't gotten a fair shake, which I think you can make that argument, to be honest. Since Salah's come in and Mike have come in, it's kind of been a pretty standard thing. Like, he's not going to fit in, and wherever you land on that, I think it's a fair argument. So I'm interested to see it. I expect that he will be gone one way or the other before opening day. I know they said they want to keep him. These guys say a lot of things that aren't necessarily true.
Of course they want to keep him. There's not going to be a trade value for a guy they don't want to keep.
Exactly. That's the whole thing. Yeah. That's the whole thing, right? Like, I think people were saying, oh, who knows what's going to happen? Like, why would he request a trade? They can't cut him now. Blah, blah, blah. It's like, you got to, like, agitate the situation a little bit. Like, you got to try to shake the tree and see who can come down and, like, what's available and who's going to make a trade. So I wasn't mad at that at all.
It was cool to see him, what he did on Sunday, because
I love that shit.
Wherever you fall in, like, the Mims thing, like, I just want it to be over with, just so we can all stop talking about it. And
I'm so over it.
And he can go to a spot where, he can get his targets and get his playing time and whatever. But how many times do we see a situation like that where a guy who's a fringe roster guy, well, maybe not a fringe roster guy, but a guy who requests a trade immediately goes out and then just, 5 targets, 2 catches, 18 yards. And you're kind of just like, oh, the Mims thing. So it was really cool to see, they featured him in the second half, and he did what he did what I think they planned for him to do. That touchdown catch was awesome. Him making a couple of tough catches where he got hit right afterwards. So it was really cool to see, after all of the hoopla from the last week leading up to this game, for him to actually produce in his first spot since all that. But yeah, I mean, I think we're both on the same page. Just get it done and over with.
Get it over with.
It's amazing to me that this team has so much talent and there's so much fun, and we're still just on this Mims thing consistently. Like,
I don't give it. I honestly, I know what you're saying. I don't really give it that much energy.
No, I mean, not from us. I mean, just in general. Like, you see, like we were just talking about, like from the beat reporters, it's all, Mims watch, Mims watch.
Everyone wants a drama.
I mean, the Jets were winning a couple games. The Jets win last year in their games. Like, oh, Denzel Mims on the field. It's like, who gives a shit? Like, we're up by 12. Who cares?
Yeah, I honestly don't even want to give it any energy.
Yeah.
The left tackle spot and the tackle spot in general is a concern.
Yeah,
I would say, given the 53, I think.
Yeah,
you definitely need one more guy there. Max Mitchell, they could say whatever they want. You can't tell us 2 months ago that it was a developmental project, and then 2 months later, 3 months later, tell me that he's ready to be the backup.
Yeah,
Tackle.
we saw in camp when they're like, yeah, Max Mitchell getting starting reps, and this is just kind of
Cool.
collective, like what?
Yeah, like cool. It's
That
weird
can't
to
happen.
be like. It's just weird, and this is kind of what you sign up for when you're dealing with a nucleus like the one we have now, where they're just not going to be the most forthcoming with information. They're always gonna talk with their guys more than anything. But the results are always going to speak for themselves. I don't love that he's the backup, but I would assume they're going to find somebody. So, and then the only other thing here is, do you think they're going to keep all 4 running backs? I don't think so, but maybe, given they don't know who their guy is.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of have to, right? Like the way that they kind of.
You don't have to. They can get rid of Ty Johnson.
To me,
all due respect to Ty Johnson.
To me, that was a shock, them keeping Ty Johnson over a guy like Tevin. But I kind of get it with Tevin because, like, I was reading he's a veteran, and if he's on the roster day one, his salary is like fully guaranteed.
Yeah.
So I guess it's kind of like one of the the Lavernius thing in Hard Knocks where they cut him and then they're like, hey,
they might try to bring him back. It's possible they cut him and then they sign him in 3 days and cut Ty. That's possible.
Right, but like the role for Ty Johnson in that spot is third down back, and he can't really catch and he can't really block. So,
so that's going to be a little bit of an issue.
That's an interesting spot for your third down back.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so defense, I have a couple things here that I just want to make a note of.
Your guy's still here, so that's great.
Huge.
That's
huge. Yeah. I feel like he's a little bit on the bubble, but that's okay. The linebackers feels like we're a little small, like from a size perspective.
Like height?
Like Quan is not exactly a big dude.
No, but
CJ slimmed down pretty significantly. Sherwood's a pretty skinny guy. Quincy Williams is pretty small.
Well, I think that's kind of what they're going for, right? Like we're kind of past the whole big over the middle type of linebacker. They want guys that can move sideline to sideline.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what you're kind of getting in Mosley and Alexander.
You don't think there's like a little bit of a concern from like a run defense perspective?
No.
Interesting.
No.
I feel like we're very small.
If they can fill their gaps. I mean, yeah, it's easy for me to say sit in my apartment. All they need to do is fill the gaps and stop
the gaps.
Fine. But if they can, if the defense puts them in the right spot and they just execute, I don't think the size thing is going to be a real big issue. And I think they'd rather trade that size in the run game and have those type of guys who can cover sideline to sideline and potentially pick up a tight end or two in pass coverage. And that's why you have the depth of a defensive line. Like they do.
Right. Yeah, I guess that's fair. I can't tell you how badly I want to click on Rob Schneider right here, but I'm not going to do it.
Can we do it? I'll do it on my phone just so we know.
Yeah, it might be something really, really bad. Yeah. I think he's kind of nuts. Okay. Corners, Sauce, obviously. The thing where they
trending.
What?
I said the Taliban's trending.
Okay. Cornerback, what do you think about the Sauce situation where they were like finally naming him the starter? I respect it, honestly. What he was saying, like, I respect that they made me work for it and all that. It's one of those rookie things where he was clearly going to be the starter from day one, but they made him earn it. And he did. He's looked great. He's been awesome. He seems like he's really a leader. It seems like he's really like up. He's never sitting down. He's never really by himself. He's always talking to somebody, clapping it up at somebody. Like, you know what I mean? So I really like seeing him. Like you were saying, DJ is hurt. So, I mean, they cut Guidry. I didn't totally get that. The only thing I can think of is like he just had a really bad summer, but I feel like we didn't hear a word about that.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, outside of Reed, Gardner, I think Hall getting cut was a really long shot. Just
wasn't going to happen. He was too productive last year, whether we liked it or not.
Right. So that was always weird for having the one bad game. I mean, I would have you see a guy. I don't know. I'm fine with this cornerback group as it stands right now. Right. Like you could make the case for Guidry, but I'm also not banging the table. Like he needs to make it over Eccles or Carter.
I would trade Nathan Shepard for Guidry for another DB right now, to be honest.
Yeah.
That's the one thing I would say, but I think we know what they want to do, right? Up front.
Vinny Curry for Javelin Guidry.
I would take Curry. We know what they want to do, right? Like they want to rotate these guys up front. They want to just constantly bring pressure, and they trust the corners to figure it out, right? Like they're going to get as much pressure up front as possible. That's why you need as many fresh bodies as possible. So the corners and DBs are going to work a little bit more. Is that right?
Yeah. They, like I was saying earlier, they want to. Yeah. No, that's what they want to do. They want to have that fresh legs, like in late game situations where they can get to the quarterback. And we've seen them build out that front four, and now they've obviously brought Sauce in, they brought Reed in, so they're kind of filling out the corners. I think safety is probably going to be a next year type of thing. But that seems like the pieces.
That seems like the most obvious hole, along with linebacker on the team.
Yeah, linebacker. I think the variance of what that unit could be is there's just a lot, right? Mm-hmm. Like they could be a really, really good unit, and Quan and Mosley are just flying all over the field, or Mosley lost a step and Quan there's a reason why he wasn't signed for a while, you know?
Yeah, I don't know, man. I think
it's not really a hot take, but that's just
yeah, no, it makes a ton of sense. It's the defense we're going to know very quickly where the real holes on this team are. I think you can argue that any of these position groups is weak in a weird way.
Correct.
I think you can argue the defensive line is a little small. I think you can argue the linebackers is weaker from a size standpoint and like a run support standpoint. Corners, in reality, there's two good ones, and safety is a hodgepodge, it seems to be.
Yeah, we're going to find out with Lamar Jackson coming into town week 1. Because it's Bateman, and then it's just a whole bunch of nothing.
Mark Adams and Isaiah Likely.
Mark Adams, definitely.
Wait, 100%. What's his name? Mark Andrews. Andrews. What did I say? Adams?
Mark
Adams.
Yeah.
What was I looking at? Oh, I was looking at Tony Adams. That's funny. Yeah, so Mark Andrews and Likely, like it's going to be.
You got to stop the run, and you got to limit. When they do pass, you have to cover.
Yeah. Yeah, and we'll talk about that next week. I think they're like weirdly hurt going into this game, so it'll be interesting. I've also heard Denzel Mims. What?
That's Baltimore. They're just consistently hurt.
Yeah, they're just always missing. That's one of the funnier. I hope that guy's okay or girl's okay. That was one of the funniest videos I've ever seen of a fully like uniformed out mascot on a cart. Hilarious.
Yeah, it really shows you the. How much they care about that mascot too, because not a single player went up and said, "Hey, man,
that's tough." No fives for the mascot on the way out. That's real tough.
I would say, like, if I look like an idiot getting hurt and seriously hurt myself, if I got like a handshake or a high five from a couple players, like I think it'd be worth it. But not a single person. They're just like, get this asshole off the field. Like we have a game to play. How about that guy at the Falcons, the mascot game, just stiff arming little peewee kids?
I didn't see that video.
Oh my god, dude!
You would trade a torn ACL for a high five from like CJ Mosley?
Yeah, I mean, I'm in a mascot, right? Like,
no, I mean right now. Would you tear your ACL for a high five?
No, not right now. I'm saying in that specific scenario, if I'm in the team mascot,
if you're there, you want the high five.
It's a hot August night. It's a Saturday hot August night. Like, yeah, if my ACL is in shambles, like. Marcus Peters, like, you know, maybe a little tap on the
boy
old
up
head.
a little bit.
Yeah, right.
A little tap on the head.
Right. That's a picture I can get freight, right? Yeah. Listen, kids, this is when Dad tore his ACL being the the Falcons or the Ravens mascot.
Yeah.
Marcus Peters gave me a. Marcus Peters would probably smack me on that. It'd look cool, but he'd probably call me a bitch after
100% because you are one.
What?
Anything else here on the roster? I think there'll be pickups. I think, Jakari Tart, is that how you say his first name?
Jaquaski Tart.
Jaquaski Tart.
Yeah.
We'll see if he's the target. Tony Jefferson. What?
What Tony Jefferson are we getting? Are we getting contacts or no contacts? Because that's huge.
You're right. Again, and this is something we were talking about pre-show and something I want to mention and make sure I always say is there's a reason these people are available, right? If Tony Jefferson
he's blind.
That's why if Tony Jefferson had a hot market, someone would have traded for him. If someone wanted Chuma Edoga, they would have traded for him. I see people talking about like sign Chuma Edoga. I got bad news for everybody. He's not a priority starter and not a priority pickup for you. I'm just going to tell you right now. So same thing. Like whatever happened with Tart, like I thought we were going to sign him and then nothing happened. And now here we are and we're back.
It felt like that kind of last leg of the free agency. Like, hey, they need a safety. Jaquiski Tartt has played in Robert Sala's system. This feels like a match made in heaven, and then it just didn't happen. I think that was one of the guys where I was like, hey, this kind of seems like an easy thing to do, but
he signed with the Eagles and then got cut from the Eagles.
Yeah, I think he's a little bit hurt. I don't like this guy.
How can you get excited about a player who got signed 2 months ago and already got cut?
How can you get excited about the safeties we have right now? Would you rather take a hurt Jaquiski Tartt or a blind Tony Jefferson?
Sounds like you can put some contacts in Tony and it's all going to be fine. So I'm probably going Tony.
Those are our options right now.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I don't know. I guess Whitehead is. I feel comfortable with Whitehead. It's really Joyner who you're worried about, right?
Yeah. I mean, just because we haven't seen him, right? Like, he was hurt all of last year. Ashton Davis is just all over the map. I have no clue what I'm getting in that guy this year. And then Tony Adams, again, I have no clue what I'm getting in that guy. I think Whitehead's the only one where you're just like, all right, like, I think we're kind of set at that part. And everyone else is just a question mark. Like, am I leaning towards Joyner being okay? I think, yeah, a little bit. I did like his comments. I think it was last week where he said he was either going to retire or sign with the Jets. When's the last time we heard something like that for a player who's like not 1 year away from just being actually retired? Right, like a 36-year-old guy.
Ryan Khalil.
I mean, that guy was very much on the way out. He was on the way out. He was on the way out as soon as he walked in the building.
I'm going to be honest. I'm a LaMarcus Joyner guy, but I'm not sure I'm fired up about getting the guy who is about to retire.
But, like, it's just a cool thing, right? Like, he's not 48 years old being like, yeah, it was either the Jets or retire, right? Like,
totally.
How many players have we gotten, right? Like, Ed Reed on his last run was like, Rex like, I'll sign you. He's like, all right, man.
Ed Reed was productive, to be honest. Like, towards the end there, he wasn't horrible.
They signed him on like a Wednesday. He played in Buffalo that Sunday.
Different era. That would never happen now. That would never, ever, ever, ever happen now.
Had to hold the team playing up for him because he was signing his contract.
The other thing I wanted to bring up here, was there any other thoughts on roster stuff? I feel like, we're pretty much on the same page.
I think Parks and Pinnock were very surprising cuts at safety because I thought Parks had a good preseason and camp. Pinnock, they seemed high on from like the minute they got him. Like last year when they converted him to safety, I thought he was fine. And I think there's been a lot of positive chatter about him in camp. So it was kind of weird to see him be cut. But I mean, there's that guy. Those two will probably end up on the practice squad.
Yep. Same thing with Streveler.
Yeah. I mean, it's the Streveler thing. It was a cool story, but there was just no shot there. They were keeping that guy. It sucks, but that's just the way that it is.
Yeah, the reality is that NFL teams prefer experience over upside, especially when it comes to an emergency third quarterback. So Mike White had a massive leg up for that reason, no matter how poorly or not poorly you think he played.
Yeah.
Great. So we'll keep an eye on pickups. I'm sure they'll be off of that 53. Probably 3 or 4 of them will be gone by the weekend. So we'll see about that. The other thing I wanted to pull up here, one of my favorite yearly traditions with the Jets is taking a look at our previous draft classes. This is courtesy of Joe Caporoso. This is one of my favorite things to look at. A beautiful, beautiful, disgusting sight. This 2015 draft is out of control. I love this so much. Leonard Williams, he's a real player. Obviously, we just couldn't keep him because he couldn't sack anybody, so it wasn't worth keeping him.
Yeah.
2016, Darren Lee, tough. Christian Hackenberg, brutal. Jordan Jenkins, he got cut, right, Jay? Is that what you were saying? Which is hilarious. Like, it's just funny looking at this. Even the 2020 draft is like...
Bryce Petty started football games for us.
He was out for the year, right? Yeah. Bryce Petty started. Christian Hackenberg
couldn't even get his helmet on.
Or Darius Stewart.
Christian Hackenberg did not start a single game.
He didn't? I thought he did.
Didn't play in a single NFL game.
Really?
Yeah.
Damn, that's tough.
Second round pick from a team that was 1 game away from the playoffs the year before.
That's really brutal.
You go and draft Christian Hackenberg.
This 2017 draft is preposterous. Our Darius Stewart was, I think, 26 when he got drafted.
Had Chris Godwin.
Our Darius Stewart was 26, right?
Yeah.
When he got drafted, I think.
Yeah. He was
Chad Hansen. That guy was awesome for like 5 minutes. I was a big Chad Hansen guy.
Just a huge Chad.
I was a huge Chad Hansen guy. Eli McGuire was actually pretty decent, but he's just the definition of like a replaceable asset in the NFL.
The thing with McGuire was like the 2018 season, Sam's rookie year, like he was getting touches and people were like, hey, this guy might be, and it's like, no, they just don't have anybody else on the roster that can take a handoff. So he's the one playing right now.
Yeah, I think the thing I want to point out the most about this list is the NFL is all about wide receivers. Like that's how you score touchdowns. Like you need to have a very good set of wide receivers.
For the Jets.
The wide receivers the Jets have drafted in this 5-year window or 6-year window, whatever. Obviously, we just changed that very recently. Is Devin Smith, who tried to make a comeback last year. That was wild.
That sucks for that guy because
I know he's been very unlucky.
And that's Darius Stewart.
Our Darius Stewart. Chad Hansen.
Sharon Peak. You skipped over Sharon Peak.
I did skip over Sharon Peak. He
actually
had
no clue that guy was a wide receiver until I
No, I did. Literally the only reason I know him is because I remember seeing him at like the bottom of depth charts in Madden. That's the only reason I know about him. And then Denzel, obviously brutal. So it's just like this league is insane.
It's just so bad to look at, man.
Yeah.
Jay made t-shirts for about 47% of the list.
Unreal. Okay. That was just the one other thing I wanted to pull up here. Honestly, I think this might be a little bit of a shorter episode. I just wanted to do this roster reaction and get into next week. So next week, are we doing 2 shows? Did you lock in your guest too, or were you doing that?
No, we're just doing one.
Okay. So next week, what we're gonna do is probably put out a show on Thursday. I think what we'll do is like a game preview, / like week that was, and then just getting into the future game. What we're going to do is we're gonna have Jack Settleman on, Underdog, Snapback Sports, Ravens fan, generally very smart person. I know him from Sports Cards, so he'll be coming on to talk Ravens. And what I hope we can do is every week we'll have a guest on who's a fan of the opposite team that we're playing, and to try to get their perspective. Because like I said, there's a lot of stuff that gets said in the media that you wouldn't really like. According what I know about the Ravens is they have serious running back issues, and their only 3 targets on offense are Rashad Bateman, Mark Adams, and this guy Isaiah Likely. So like I'm assuming there's more to the story here, and hopefully we'll be able to get that out of Jack. So yeah, that's what we'll be doing next week. What we're also going to do next week, probably post game, is we'll do a short little 20-minute post game show. If you're interested in that, I think was what we talked about doing. I don't remember if we did or not. Maybe. And then we're also going to have the debut of Greg's Clips. I'm going to workshop a name for that. I'm going to workshop the branding on that one. Supercuts with Greg Armstrong. It's going to be very poorly edited, all 22 footage.
You're just gonna, I'm going to send you the footage. It's just going to be me actually cutting somebody's hair. Breaking down.
So that's what we'll do for next week. And as we get into the season, I think it's going to be maybe 1 to 2, probably 2 shows a week. We'll do reaction shows Sunday or Monday night or after the game, whatever. Okay. And then we'll do the week of the game, Thursday, Friday, when we have a pretty clear picture of the injury report and what's going on into that game. We'll have our main show, and that'll be probably like 40 minutes to an hour. So that'll be something for everyone to look forward to, something for us to look forward to as we get into this season.
Might get a little in the mix with some college football.
Might be a little college football action. We'll talk about that. I think we did our predictions this morning on Card Talk, and it was I picked Utah to go to the playoffs, so I'm feeling real good about that.
Who did they play? No, they play Florida.
I think so.
At the Swamp.
I think so. It's just the Pac-12. I just don't trust USC at all. So
no. Future Big Ten member.
Future Big Ten member, USC. All right, I think that's going to do it, Greg. Do you have anything else you want to talk about right now? I think 40-minute show feels good.
No, I mean, football's here. Like, it's kind of...
Yeah, I don't want to overdo it. Like, we've talked about the same thing. Like, I don't want to talk about the same thing too much. And
I don't want to break down
primarily the main thing was roster stuff today.
It's Hennessy.
What'd you say?
Get over it. I said it's Hennessy. Get over it. Long snapper.
Yep, Hennessy. Yeah, the punter situation, we'll figure it out. I'm sure they'll just have somebody on the roster.
Yeah.
That's the problem. We're laughing about it now, but I'm sure all year long, we'll be signing punters, trying to find the right guy.
Yeah, certainly not going to give you a full 30-minute breakdown on punting styles and what best fits Boyer's special teams unit.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to do it for me. All right. Yeah. That is it. Just Enough to Suffer, episode 3. We didn't get to bring Jay in this week, but we'll have Jay heavily next week when we're talking Ravens, because I'm sure he has a lot of thoughts. And that'll do it for this week. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Please leave a comment. Please like. Please subscribe. Ring that bell. All that good stuff. Follow us on social. Just Enough to Suffer, episode 3. That's all. Thank you. Peace.